Blue and red lights streaked across the wet pavement, smearing color into the night like something bruised and unresolved. The grocery store door slid open and shut, again and again, as people slowed, phones already rising, curiosity settling into a quiet hunger. Near the entrance, a teenage boy in clean sneakers chuckled, tucking a soda against his side and strolling out. The sensors stayed silent. The guard's eyes followed him for half a second, then drifted away. A few steps later, the mood changed. The guard straightened, shoulders squaring as if a decision had already been made. "Sir," he said, palm lifting slightly. "Hold on." A patrol car crept closer, engine low, headlights washing over the sidewalk and stopping there. Behind the counter, the clerk leaned in, gaze firm, uninterested in questions. The manager emerged from the back, glancing past shoppers still moving freely, carts rattling, laughter echoing faintly from inside. "We'll take care of it," he said, voice smooth, final. The man's jacket was thin, darkened by rain. His daughter's hand tightened around his sleeve. She looked toward the open doors, then back at the adults forming a loose circle around them. "Daddy," she whispered, careful and confused. "Why are they watching us?" Rain tapped the metal awning. The cruiser idled, phones tilted higher. A laugh surfaced somewhere in the crowd and stopped. One person lowered their phone. Another shifted, eyes on the floor. The man didn't protest. He didn't explain. He only drew his daughter closer and stayed still. A notification chimed. Someone murmured, "This is going to matter." Remember this moment, the instant a child noticed the rules weren't the same, because by morning, many would insist they never saw it at all. Morning arrived thin and unsettled, like the city hadn't finished deciding what kind of day it wanted to be. The apartment above the closed laundromat stayed cold even after sunrise. Steam stains climbed the walls from years of machines running below, and the smell of detergent never quite left. Light crept in through a narrow window, catching dust in the air like it was part of the room's history. Marcus Hale stood at the sink, rinsing a single mug. He dried it slowly, deliberately, as if speed might invite trouble. His jacket hung from the back of a chair, patched at the elbow. On the table lay a worn leather notebook, its corners soft, its spine cracked. He kept it face down, not hidden, just quiet. From the bedroom came the sound of movement, fabric rustling, a small cough. "Daddy?" Lena's voice drifted out, already alert. "Are we early?" Marcus smiled before he answered. "We're right on time." She appeared in the doorway, hoodie zipped to her chin even though the room wasn't that cold. Her hair was still uneven from where she'd cut it herself months ago. She liked it that way, less attention. They ate toast standing up. The radio murmured low on the counter, traffic, weather, then a clipped story about retail security concerns and heightened awareness. Marcus turned it off before Lena could ask questions. Outside, the sidewalk was still damp from the night before. Storefronts reflected back a version of the street that looked calmer than it felt. As they walked, a patrol car rolled past them, slower than necessary. Marcus didn't look. Lena did. She slipped her hand into his pocket, fingers curling around his keys. "They always do that," she said quietly. "Do what?" "Drive slow when they see us." He didn't answer right away. He adjusted his stride to match hers. "Eyes forward," he said, gentle. "You're doing fine." At the school gate, a security officer leaned against the fence, coffee in hand. A white father ahead of them patted his pockets, laughing. "Forgot my badge again," he said. The officer grinned. "You're killing me, man, go on." They shared a look like it was a joke that belonged to them. When Marcus stepped forward, the smile vanished. The officer straightened, blocking the entrance with his arm. "Badge." Marcus handed it over. The officer checked it twice, looked at Marcus, looked at Lena. Behind them the line grew. Lena tugged Marcus's sleeve. "He didn't need his," she whispered, not accusing, just noticing. The officer waved them through without comment. No apology, no smile. Marcus felt the weight of it settle between his shoulders as they walked inside. He kissed Lena's forehead before she joined her class. "Have a good day," he said. She hesitated. "I'll try not to make trouble." He crouched so they were eye level. "You don't make trouble by existing," he said. The words tasted practiced, necessary. Work meant buses and transfers, eyes that lingered a second too long. At the hospital, Marcus swiped his badge at the staff entrance. The light blinked red. He tried again. Red. A supervisor glanced over. "System's been weird," she said, not moving to help. Marcus stepped aside as two nurses passed, badges accepted instantly. On the third try, the door opened. He slipped inside without meeting anyone's eyes. In the break room, a flyer had been taped to the fridge. Security alert. The image beneath was grainy, black, close enough to be anyone. Marcus noticed how the edges were worn, like it had been there a while. A coworker nudged him. "Crazy times," he said. You can't be too careful. Marcus nodded once and took his lunch outside instead. The hospital's loading dock smelled of oil and rain. Sirens passed every few minutes, close enough to feel in his chest. He pulled the leather notebook from his bag, hesitated, then opened it just enough to see the first page. There were no medals in that notebook, no praise, just names crossed out, dates circled, things that never made it into reports. Years ago, Marcus had been part of a system that needed someone expendable when a line was crossed. When a choice had to be made between truth and convenience, he'd chosen wrong for himself and right for someone else. The system hadn't cared why, it just needed him gone. He'd lost his job, his reputation, the right to explain. What he hadn't lost was the habit of noticing danger early. At pickup, Lena walked toward him slower than usual. Her teacher smiled too brightly. "She's very observant," she said. "Asks interesting questions." Lena climbed into the car and buckled herself in. "I asked why the cameras only follow some kids," she said. Marcus gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles lightened. "What did they say?" "That they're for safety." She stared out the window. "But not everyone needs safety, I guess." Dinner was quiet. Halfway through, sirens flared outside, louder this time. Lena froze, fork halfway to her mouth. Marcus stood and closed the window, even though it was already shut. Later, as Lena slept, she shifted at the sound of another siren, brow furrowing. Marcus stayed by her door until her breathing evened out. He returned to the table and opened the drawer beneath it, lifting slightly where it stuck. The notebook went inside. Not because it was dangerous, but because remembering cost too much on nights like this. From the window, he watched officers question a man across the street. The man's hands were visible, too visible. Marcus stayed where he was. The city kept moving. The system kept working. And Marcus knew, the way you know a storm is coming before the sky changes, that staying quiet was getting harder every day. The rain had settled into a thin, steady fall by the time Marcus and Lena reached the grocery store. Not enough to chase people away, just enough to slick the concrete and smear the parking lot lights into long white streaks. Inside, the air smelled of sanitizer and overripe fruit. Fluorescent panels buzzed overhead, flattening every face to the same tired color. Lena pushed the cart with care, wheels squeaking at each turn. "Eggs first," she said, checking the list. "Then bread, the soft one." They passed a display of bottled water stacked too high, shrink wrap torn in places. A store announcement crackled about loss prevention and customer awareness. Marcus felt the words land where they always did. He kept moving. At the dairy case, a man in a tailored coat brushed past, clipping the cart hard enough to rattle the eggs. He didn't stop, didn't turn. The floor beneath his shoes stayed dry and clean. Marcus steadied the carton and said nothing. At checkout, only one lane was open. A crooked sign read cash only on the others. Marcus joined the line, placing the basket down gently. Ahead, a woman argued about coupons. Behind them, a white couple laughed at something on a phone. Near the exit, a security guard leaned against a post, arms folded. His gaze drifted, then settled on Marcus and didn't move. Lena felt it before Marcus did. "Why is he looking at us?" she whispered. "He's doing his job," Marcus said, though he knew better. The guard touched his radio. Another guard appeared by the service desk. A third took position near the doors. The line didn't notice the shift. It happened too quietly. The cashier scanned items faster than necessary. Beeps stacked into a sharp rhythm. 32.75. Marcus slid his card across. The machine paused. The guard took one step closer. "Sir," the cashier said, voice changing, "we need to check your bag." "For what?" Marcus asked. "Protocol," she said, eyes already elsewhere. "Random." The woman with coupons wasn't asked. The couple behind them wasn't asked. The guard's hand hovered near his belt. Lena's fingers tightened in Marcus's jacket. "Daddy," she whispered, fear creeping in, "are we in trouble?" "No," he said. "We're not." "Bag," the guard said, positioning himself in front of the cart. Marcus unzipped it slowly. Inside were Lena's sweater, her school notebook, and the leather-bound book he rarely carried anymore. The guard's eyes stopped there. "What's that?" he asked. "A notebook. Open it." Marcus paused. The cameras above the aisles hummed softly. If racism didn't exist, this wouldn't be happening. The question answered itself. "I'm not opening my personal things," Marcus said. "You can call the police." The word police settled the room. The manager appeared, tie loosened, smile preloaded. "Sir, refusing inspection can be taken as aggressive behavior." "I'm standing still," Marcus said. The man in the tailored coat drifted closer, leaning against a display. "If you've got nothing to hide," he said loudly, "why make a scene?" Phones came out. Someone laughed. Someone else whispered, "Here we go." Lena stepped forward, voice small but steady. It's just paper, she said. He writes lists so we don't forget things. The guard ignored her. Open it. Now. Marcus closed the bag instead. You're not touching it. A sharp crash cut through the aisle. It came from the end cap with the bottled water, the stacked unit giving way under its own weight. Plastic split. Bottles burst free, rolling across the floor. A boy stumbled and went down hard, half pinned by the frame. Water spread fast, skimming toward a knocked-over freezer cord that sparked where insulation had split. People froze. Guards froze. The manager took a step back. Marcus didn't think. He moved because he was closest. Don't move, he called to the boy, voice even. He dropped to a knee, shoved a crate under the frame to keep it from sliding. The shelf was heavier than it looked, but there was no dramatic lift, no pause for courage, just space enough for the boy to pull his leg free if he stayed calm. I'm right here, Marcus said. Look at me. Not the water, the spark hissed louder. Someone screamed. No one cut the power. Kill the line, Marcus shouted. A clerk finally hit an emergency switch. The lights flickered. The spark died. The boy crawled clear. Someone pulled him away. The moment ended as abruptly as it began. No applause, just breath returning to bodies. Marcus stood, pants soaked, hands shaking slightly now that it was over. He turned toward Lena. She was crying silently. I thought, she stopped, swallowing. I thought they were going to take you. I'm here, he said, reaching for her. That's when the police arrived. They moved past the fallen shelf, past the injured boy being tended to, straight toward Marcus. Sir, step aside. I helped, Marcus said. There was a hands where we can see them, an officer said, already behind him. The manager nodded quickly. He refused inspection earlier, he said. Got aggressive. Aggressive. The word hung there, ready-made. The man in the tailored coat stood a few feet away, phone still out. An officer brushed past him without a glance. The woman with coupons slipped out the door, bags in hand. Lena stepped forward, voice breaking through the noise. He saved him, she said. He saved the boy. An officer hesitated. Another reached for cuffs. Sir, the first said, quieter now, you need to calm down. I haven't moved, Marcus said. Cold metal closed around his wrist. Click. Around them, phones shifted, not toward Marcus now, but toward the officers. The guard avoided eye contact. The manager's smile thinned, then vanished. The room went quiet in a way that felt heavier than shouting. Marcus bent slightly to meet Lena's eyes. He smiled, small and steady. Eyes forward, he said, just like we practiced. They led him toward the doors. Outside, the rain had picked up, drumming against the awning like a countdown. The cameras kept rolling, capturing what mattered, not the rescue, but the choice that came after it. By the time the doors closed behind them, the difference was unmistakable. The shelf falling hadn't changed anything. Saving a child hadn't changed anything. The decision had already been made. The holding room smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. The light overhead buzzed faintly, flickering just enough to make time feel unstable. Marcus sat with his hands cuffed in front of him, elbows resting on a metal table scarred by years of use. Water from his pants pooled beneath the chair, spreading slowly, unnoticed. No one explained anything. An officer passed the doorway, glanced in, kept walking. Another stopped long enough to say, "Someone will be with you," then disappeared down the hall. The system moved the way it always did, efficient when it wanted to be, silent when silence was useful. Marcus's phone had been taken. He stared at the wall instead. He counted breaths. He thought of Lena's shoes squeaking on the grocery floor, of the way her voice had cut through the noise. He wondered who was sitting with her now. Down the corridor, a television murmured. A news anchor's voice rose and fell, rehearsed urgency wrapping itself around shaky footage from the store. The screen showed the shelf collapsing, the blur of movement, then the moment the cuffs clicked. The chyron beneath it read, "Man detained after store disturbance." Disturbance. They replayed it twice. The rescue trimmed short. The refusal of the bag check looped longer. Commentary filled the gaps. Store sources say, police report indicates. Protocol was followed. Marcus closed his eyes. Across the city, Lena sat on a plastic chair in a side office at the station. Her feet didn't reach the floor. A woman with tired eyes offered her juice she didn't drink. An officer asked questions without waiting for answers. Did your father raise his voice? Did he touch anyone? Does he get angry? Lena hugged her hoodie tighter. He was calm, she said. He always is. They nodded, wrote something down, moved on. By morning, the video had spread everywhere. Short clips stripped of context. Comment sections bloomed like open wounds. Why didn't he just comply? Look staged. Hero or criminal? We don't know the full story. At the grocery store, the manager gave a statement. Our team acted in accordance with established safety measures, he said, jaw set. Any implication of bias is unfortunate but unfounded. The guards were placed on paid leave. The word paid mattered. The police released their own statement an hour later. The individual became agitated and refused a lawful inspection. It read, "Officers responded to ensure public safety. No mention of the boy, no mention of the shelf, no mention of who had been watched first." Marcus was released late that afternoon without apology. Charges pending, investigation ongoing. His belongings returned in a clear plastic bag, the leather notebook tucked at the bottom like an afterthought. Outside, cameras waited. He shielded his eyes from the flash, instinctive. A reporter called out, "Do you regret not cooperating?" He kept walking. At home, Lena ran into him so hard he staggered. She buried her face in his jacket, breath hitching once before she steadied herself. "They said you might not come back today," she said. "I'm here," he replied, holding her tighter than usual. That night, sleep came in fragments. Sirens threaded through dreams. Lena stirred at every sound. Marcus stayed awake, listening to the city decide what it wanted the story to be. The next day, his supervisor called. "We're going to need you to take some time," she said carefully, "until things settle." "Unpaid?" Marcus asked. A pause, for now, bills stacked on the table. The permission slip remained unsigned. On the third day, a lawyer left a message. "Public Defender's Office. Overworked, kind but honest. They're building the case around noncompliance," she said. "The rescue complicates things, but it doesn't erase the report." "Erase," Marcus repeated after the call ended. At the grocery store, life returned to normal. Shelves restocked. A small sign thanked customers for their patience. The boy who'd been hurt was fine. His family declined interviews. The video kept circulating anyway. At school, Lena's teacher pulled her aside. "Kids have been talking," she said gently. "We want to make sure Lena feels safe." "Do they say my dad is bad?" Lena asked. The teacher hesitated. "They say a lot of things." That afternoon, a woman Marcus didn't recognize stopped him on the sidewalk. "I saw the video," she said quietly. "You did the right thing." He nodded, unsure what to do with the words. Another man wasn't so quiet. "You people always want special treatment," he muttered as he passed. The system adjusted. The narrative hardened. Each statement, each headline, sanded the edges down until the story fit familiar shapes. Troublemaker, compliance, safety. Marcus sat at the table one night, the leather notebook open in front of him. Lena watched from the doorway. "What's that?" she asked. "Old things," he said. She studied his face. "If you tell them the truth," she said slowly, "will they listen?" He thought of forms and statements, of doors that opened only one way. He thought of what speaking had cost him once before. "I don't know," he said. She nodded, absorbing the weight of that answer. Then softer, "I don't want you to disappear." Neither did he. The choice pressed in from all sides. Stay quiet, protect Lena from the storm. Or speak and let the system do what it always did to people who challenged it. Outside, a siren wailed and faded. The city moved on. The system held its shape. Marcus closed the notebook, not hiding it this time. Just resting his hand on the cover, feeling the familiar wear beneath his fingers. The truth was still there. Whether anyone wanted it was another matter. The knock came early, before the sky had fully decided what color it wanted to be. 3 taps, even, controlled, the kind that didn't ask permission. Marcus opened the door. The woman standing there took in his face for half a second longer than politeness required. Dark skin, tired eyes. The quiet posture of someone used to being measured before being heard. "Eleanor Price," she said, holding her badge low, not flashing it. "Civil Rights Bureau." Marcus stepped aside. Inside, she paused, not at the clutter, not at the bills, but at the framed photo near the window. A younger Marcus, smiling, Lena small in his arms. The contrast was unavoidable. She placed a tablet on the table. "We pulled the full footage from the grocery store," she said. "Not the clip that went viral, everything before it." She pressed play. The screen showed the entrance. Customers flowing in. Then Marcus appeared. Eleanor slowed the footage. "Here," she said. The guard's body shifted. Not fast, not obvious, just enough. A hand touching the radio. Eyes locking. Eleanor split the screen. "Left side is you," she said. "Right side is the next 27 minutes. Marcus watched as white customers, some bigger than him, some louder, passed through the same space. Same aisles, same bags, no shift, no hand to the radio. Eleanor let the clip run without commentary. Then she advanced to another sequence. Different day, same store. 3 black men entered separately over the course of an hour. Each one marked, each one watched. Each one followed halfway down an aisle before being let go. No theft reports, Eleanor said quietly. No complaints, just proximity and skin. Lena had come closer without realizing it. Her voice was small. So it wasn't just him. No, Eleanor said. It was never just him. She pulled up audio next. The manager's voice filled the room, calm, efficient. Once they match the profile, you don't wait for escalation. A pause. You know how these situations go. Marcus felt something tighten behind his ribs. Not anger, recognition. Eleanor looked at him. They never describe the profile in writing, she said. They don't have to. Everyone understands it the same way. She switched clips. Hospital access logs appeared. Marcus's badge denied, twice, then delayed approvals. Your face circulated internally, Eleanor said. Security alert, no charges. No conviction, just a description. She zoomed in on the attached still frame, a still from the store video. Marcus, hands visible, skin unmistakably dark against the fluorescent light. They didn't label you dangerous, Eleanor continued. They labeled you familiar. Lena stared at the image. Because he's black, she said. It wasn't a question. Eleanor nodded once. Silence spread through the kitchen. Then Eleanor slid a thin folder across the table. This started years ago, she said, when you refused to sign off on that internal report. Marcus opened it slowly. He remembered the case. The man who hadn't survived the stop. The language they wanted him to approve. Resisted. Escalated, I said it wasn't true, Marcus murmured. And you paid for it, Eleanor replied. Quietly, the same way they're trying to do now. Lena looked between them. So they already knew who you were. Yes, Eleanor said. A black man who didn't stay in his lane. That afternoon, the press room felt colder than it should have. Eleanor stood at the podium, screens lit behind her. This is not an isolated incident, she said. This is pattern recognition built on race. Footage rolled, split screens, timestamps, white customers unchecked, black customers marked within seconds. The room shifted, chairs stilled, pens paused. A reporter raised her hand. Are you stating this was racially motivated? Eleanor didn't hesitate. I'm stating that Marcus was treated as a threat before he acted, she said, because he is a black man in a space where black presence is pre-labeled as risk. A murmur rippled. Another reporter glanced toward Marcus and Lena standing at the side. Sir, he called out, how does it feel knowing this was decided before you spoke? Marcus stepped forward. He didn't raise his voice. It feels familiar, he said. It feels like being watched for something you haven't done yet. Lena's hand slid into his. That's my dad, she said. And he saved someone, but they were ready to arrest him the moment he walked in. No applause followed. Just silence, phones lifted, not toward Marcus, but toward the officer's statement scrolling on screen behind Eleanor, toward the word profile highlighted in yellow. That night at home, Marcus opened his notebook. He wrote one line, targeted on entry. Lena watched him. They saw you before they saw what you did, she said. Yes, he answered. She nodded, absorbing it. Then it really wasn't your fault. Outside, the city moved on. Systems adjusted language, statements softened tone, but something had shifted, not legally, not cleanly, socially. People had seen it now, not a misunderstanding, not bad luck. A black man marked first and judged later. And this time, the system couldn't pretend otherwise. The statement came out at 9:14 a.m., carefully worded, neutral font, no faces attached. We acknowledge procedural inconsistencies and are reviewing internal guidelines to ensure fairness and transparency moving forward. Marcus read it twice. No names, no apology, no mention of race. By noon, the grocery chain had updated its policy page, enhanced customer engagement training. The word profile was gone, replaced with behavioral indicators. The guards kept their jobs, the manager was reassigned. No one was fired, no one was charged. Eleanor texted once. This is as far as it goes. Marcus didn't reply. He took Lena to school anyway. At the gate, the same security officer stood with a clipboard. Same posture, same eyes. He nodded this time. Quick, professional. A white father joked about forgetting his badge again. The officer laughed. Marcus felt Lena's fingers tighten around his hand. They walked past. Inside the classroom, Lena didn't let go right away. Did they say sorry? She asked. No, Marcus said. Did they say they were wrong? No. She considered this, her brow furrowing the way it did when something didn't add up. Then why did they change the words? Marcus crouched to her level. Because words are cheaper than change. She nodded slowly, filing it away like a rule she'd need later. That afternoon, the video numbers kept climbing. Comment sections filled with arguments. Some people called it accountability. Others called it exaggeration. A few insisted it had nothing to do with race at all. Marcus didn't read them. He sat at the kitchen table with his notebook open, the pen resting but unmoving. The page still held the line he'd written before, targeted on entry. He added another beneath it, cleared on language. At work, the flyer in the break room was replaced. The headline now read, "Commitment to Community Trust." Marcus's badge access worked again, mostly. Sometimes it lagged just long enough to be noticed. A coworker smiled too hard. Another avoided eye contact altogether. No one mentioned the footage. That evening, the city council meeting streamed quietly in the background while Marcus cooked. The chair thanked Alina for her service and moved on to zoning permits. Lena sat on the counter, swinging her legs. "Are we safe now?" she asked. Marcus paused. He turned the stove down before answering. "We're visible," he said. "That's different," she frowned. "Visible is good, right?" "Sometimes," he said. "It just means they know we're watching too." Sirens passed outside. Lena stiffened in her sleep later that night, a soft sound catching in her chest. Marcus stayed where he was, listening until the sound faded, until her breathing evened out again. He didn't step onto the porch. He used to. Days passed, then weeks. The store reopened with a banner about inclusion. The guard stood in the same place, trained now to smile longer. The cameras were still there. So were the blind spots. A reporter stopped Marcus once on the sidewalk. "Do you feel justice was served?" she asked. Marcus thought of the statement, the policy update, the rephrased words. "I feel like they learned how to say it better," he replied. The clip didn't air. On a Saturday morning, Marcus took Lena back to the grocery store. Not the same one. A different neighborhood, different lights, same layout. They walked in. No one stopped them. Lena looked up, searching faces, waiting for the shift. It didn't come. She relaxed just a little. At the checkout, the cashier smiled and asked about her day. Lena answered. Marcus paid. They left. Outside, Lena tugged his sleeve. "Was it because we're here?" she asked. Marcus looked back at the entrance. The glass reflected them faintly, dark skin against bright ads promising fairness, savings, community. "Yes," he said, "and because they learned people are watching." She absorbed that. "So we have to keep watching too." Marcus smiled, tired but real. "Yes." That night he wrote again. They didn't stop doing it. They stopped saying it out loud. He closed the notebook. The system moved on as it always did. Adjusted language, updated training modules, filed the incident under resolved. But in kitchens and classrooms and quiet car rides, something else lingered. A child who noticed the difference. A father who knew the cost of entry. A truth that didn't need shouting to stay heavy. The system had rephrased itself. The harm hadn't changed. And everyone who saw it, really saw it, would never unsee the moment when a black man was judged before he spoke, before he moved, before he saved anyone at all. That was the resolution, not closure, recognition. Months later, the video stopped circulating. It didn't disappear, nothing ever really does, but it sank beneath newer outrage, newer headlines, newer statements written with the same careful hands. The algorithm moved on. The system always does. Marcus noticed it in small ways. Fewer stares at the school gate, more smiles that arrived a second too late, training posters replaced by seasonal decorations. On paper, everything looked better. Lena grew taller. Her questions changed shape. She stopped asking why it happened and started asking when. When do they decide? When do they start watching? When does it become about us? Marcus never rushed his answers. Some evenings, they sat together on the couch while the news murmured in the background. Different city, different family, same pauses in the reporter's voice, same phrases. An isolated incident, no evidence of bias. Protocols were followed. Lena would glance at him, eyes sharp now, older than they should have been. "They're doing it again," she'd say. "Yes," Marcus would answer. Just quieter, one afternoon, while cleaning, Marcus found the old notebook tucked behind a stack of bills. He flipped through the pages, dates, observations, clipped sentences. Not rage, not poetry, just records. At the end, he added one more line. Survival is remembering when they want forgetting. He closed it for good this time. Years later, Lena would write an essay at school about fairness, not about anger, not about blame. About noticing patterns, about how silence can be dressed up as peace. Her teacher would call it mature. Her classmates would call it heavy. Marcus would read it twice and say nothing, because some lessons don't need praise. The grocery store where it all began still stood. New paint, new slogan, same doors. People walked in and out every day believing what they needed to believe. Marcus passed it once, hands in his pockets, sunlight catching the glass just right. For a moment he saw their reflection again. A black man, a child beside him, unmarked, unapologized to, unforgotten. He didn't stop, he kept walking. The system would keep rephrasing itself, smoother words, softer tones, cleaner statements. But somewhere a child had learned to recognize the pause before suspicion. A father had learned when visibility is not protection, and a story had settled into memory, not as a scandal, not as a win, but as a warning. Not everything that ends is resolved. Some things simply remain true.